Hohem's iSteady M7, a smartphone gimbal which brings us back to basics in a very unique AI-backed way with some remarkable ideas. So can it change the gimbal market? Let's inspect. Hey buddy, great to meet you. I'm Michael, the Tech Mishka, and on the channel in the past few months I've been doing less smartphone gimbal reviews because, well, first of all, there aren't too many new models because the market is now quite saturated, kind of controlled by 2 to 3 brands, and most of these smartphone gimbals have become too smartphone dependent, whereas a lot of functions like the AI tracking and the quality of the image and many other factors are dependent on a specific smartphone app. And Hohem, which is yet another brand for smartphone gimbals, they always tried to do something differently in order to give you more power without having to rely that much on the smartphone app. So this is the AI-backed M7, and yes, I hear you. I also belong to the people who are very much sick of all these AI marketing things, but think of this joystick as something which can remotely control and detect you and kind of empower your gimbal with features which are traditionally assigned to just a smartphone app. So is this a little breakthrough, and how does M7 perform in plenty of real-life situations? Let's dive into it. Starting with a few stabilization samples. The better your smartphone's camera is, the better the footage. Using a gimbal gives you a bunch of bonuses when it comes to 2 particular use cases. Having video stabilizer for cameras which do not come with the OIS, optical image stabilization, and most of the ultra-wide cameras don't really have such on most of the phones. And the more important one, having much steadier and smoother way of filming with your smartphone's telephoto camera. A perfect example is the 5x zoom on the Pixel 9 Pro that I've used during most of the tests with this gimbal. This kind of smoothness when it comes to transitions you can never ever replicate handheld. Hohem, of course, claimed that the stabilizing algorithm, being now a new generation, is even better, but the truth is that in the past 3, maybe 4 years, I cannot recall a smartphone gimbal with really bad stabilization anyway. The usual point of failure for some of these devices is the support for heavier phones. And looking at how it handles my abuse, I think these motors can handle a lot of load. The design and the build quality are also among the positives. iSteady M7 arrives in my personal favorite kind of pack, such with hard shell case. Call me old school, but I prefer a reliable way to move my gimbal around. Plus, this one offers enough space for adding some accessories. Actually, I was surprised by the size. This is big, feels powerful, there's a lock mechanism, 3 grades of disabling the movements, very practical if you want to temporarily carry it. Good way to store it safely in a camera backpack too. The mechanisms are very easy to lock and unlock. Unfortunately, this happens in a mechanical kind of way only. We can see here the new generation of AI module can be mounted in both ways, and yes, it is a big deal. Gonna show it in a moment. The joystick is removable, has a larger and brighter display, and this time, real-time footage coming straight out of the mini camera inside the AI module. Pretty neat. Also, with the iSteady M7, Hohem seemed to target mostly professionals because this special arm is something we mostly see with pro-grade gimbals, and you can finally make these dope low-angle shots with a smartphone. The specs are good too. Among the extended battery capacity, the high-quality materials, the multiple control buttons and options, there are 2 features that definitely stand out. The unlimited panning, something we've so dearly missed with smartphone gimbals in the past years, and the AI module, which is a small camera that gets attached to the clamp and can transmit real-time image to the detachable control unit within up to 10 meters of range. I can't even remember when was the last time I had a smartphone gimbal which was capable of doing this, namely unlimited panning, you know, this 360-degree unlimited rotation, which is pretty neat. And it is a fact that most smartphone gimbal makers nowadays are sacrificing this exact capacity, namely to have really good angle of operation, something which happened with the Insta360 Flow and its last generation, with the DJI Osmo Mobile series and so on and so forth. And I'm not mentioning them in order to say that they are bad. I'm just trying to highlight the fact that different vendors have their different philosophy and they prioritize different kind of features. Just like the iSteady M7, whereas I feel that this part is the most important one, detachable, and you have real-time remote transmission so that, well, if you want to film yourself or track yourself, you would be able to adjust the angles as you please. There also is AI tracking feature. It can automatically detect and track your face. Well, with the current state of the firmware, it's not perfect yet for some of the conditions. I think it was performing really good, but when the color of my clothes was similar to the background color, it was very often getting confused and doing some weird jumpy movements, something I really hope to see enhanced with future firmware updates. On the other hand, even without it, the ability to kind of adapt the angles as you please, that's quite a bliss. Speaking of controls, let me talk more about the modes and the different filming options. Hohem are adopting an improved version of their touchscreen for this new generation. While buttons can still trigger various modes, the touchscreen is what most likely you're going to find naturally better. Because besides the usual switching between pan, tilt, follow, or pan, follow, or all lock, or POV, which by design are the most commonly used with gimbals, you could also tune down some of the settings on the go without the need to access the smartphone app. Based on my experience with a gimbal, it's something you very quickly get to like, and now every other gimbal that I have to work with feels ineffective for my typical needs of using. The gimbal also has a trigger button. If you press and hold, all lock mode kicks in, something that most gimbal makers tend to configure for their trigger buttons in the very same way. The control wheel here has an interesting purpose. By default, it controls the focus so that it makes shooting these close-ups much more convenient. I'll be brutally honest here, it's something I've used while recording the review of the M6, the former generation, so I never really adopted this in my own workflow, but you could also assign some other functions, such as panning or tilting. The other set of functions of the control wheel you're about to access after starting the AI module, turning the LED on and pressing this button. All of a sudden you can control the light behavior, and since this is RGB capable, you can go to the corresponding mode and tune it even further. It's a whole lot of fun. I'm just not sure it is a feature that most of the people will use that often. Even with the lamp on, even with the highest possible brightness setting, the battery life stays strong. Now, you probably noticed two different indicators about the level of the gimbal, and now this indication about the remote module, because it has an inbuilt battery as well. And although Hohem say that iSteady M7 is perfectly controllable without having to use the smartphone app, of course, such one exists. It's called Hohem Joy, and technically is very good. Stable, it has recognized all the different cameras on my phone, while for Google Pixel it was showing some weird zoom levels. But unless you want to configure something more advanced on the gimbal, or you would like to use any of the ready-to-use templates about special effects, you could also film with your smartphone's native camera app, or an alternative of your choice. This guarantees that you can rely on the full capacity of your smartphone's camera app. I'm saying this because with Android, on some third-party camera apps, there are certain quality and performance constraints. Simple example, with Osmo Mobile 6 and the camera app there, I still don't have 4K 60p via the Mimo app on my Galaxy phone. Sounds like we can already talk about the dark side. The drawbacks I can think of, well, there is no QR clamp for the smartphone, which definitely is nice to have with DJI and Insta360's alternatives. The gimbal is not waterproof, feels bulky, and it is given its dimensions. And the firmware updates take really long time to happen. As soon as you see a notification for a new release, make sure to have at least 30 spare minutes. We finally have a smartphone gimbal which empowers you to get the most out of your smartphone's camera, especially when it comes to Android compatibility, because many of you who have already had smartphone gimbals would agree that it's really tricky to make sure that you get the best quality through the third-party app that your smartphone gimbal vendor makes you use. And to me, this detachable remote, giving you the freedom to control the gimbal remotely, to have real-time image, and also to rely on automatic tracking, regardless of the fact that it's not that perfect yet, means that maybe the M7 is going to be the only smartphone gimbal I would rely on for the next year, just because it covers all these basics in a great way, especially the unlimited panning, but also giving me the freedom to remotely control everything when I need to, without having to use a second person in order to do the filming. So that's everything I wanted to share in regard to iSteady M7. If you have questions or you want to share about your own experience, comments are down below the video. Really curious to see about your opinion. If you can also let me know which is currently your favorite smartphone gimbal, that would be great. In the meantime, and this is going to take just a few seconds of your time, please give me a like if you enjoyed the video thus far. Subscribe to the channel for more cool tech inspections, and I, Michael, the Tech Mishka, wish you a fantastic day. Bye.